Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. Welcome to the monthly LGMA webinars towards COP29. We will just allow around 30 seconds for all participants to settle down so that we can proceed smoothly. Thanks for your patience and your participation. So I think we are relatively set and we can kick off without losing too much time and uh, additional colleagues when they join, they can catch up easily. My name is Yunus Arıkan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy at ICLE, Local Governments for Sustainability, and I'm delighted and honored to deliver this presentation in my capacity as the focal point of the Local Government and Municipal Authorities constituency on behalf of ICLE. For those who are joining this webinar for the first time, these are monthly sessions. It's repeated twice every third Wednesday. And for Eastern and Western hemispheres, the sessions are recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel, and participants also receive their links to the recordings and the presentation afterwards. We usually encourage our participants to follow the full presentation until its end, and then open the discussion for questions and answers and input as appropriate. But in case there are any burning issues, you can also type your messages in the chat box or Q&A sections. In several cases, we have guests, we have partners, special partners, but we usually run this also as a collaborative effort of the LGMA constituency. In our agenda today, we will start with the, let's say, basics, background. Some of them may be familiar with most of you, therefore we do our best to skip it as smooth as quick as possible. We will focus on some updates since August or in August, since our last webinar on the 24th of July. Would like to spend a significant amount of time for COP29 joint messages. And we will hear some updates from the COP29 presidency related processes or led processes where UN-Habitat is particularly supporting the COP29 presidency. Last month, we had the honor of having Mr. Elmar Mammadov and Shahriar Hajiev. Today, I assume my colleague Leah will be joining us from UN-Habitat to provide us some updates since the last processes. We will go through the 100 days to COP, and we have updates from our colleagues from Biodiversity Center, especially towards Cali Biodiversity COP16, just a couple of weeks before the climate COP in Baku. So with this in mind, let's proceed. We are the voice of towns, cities, regions, states, all levels of subnational governments, all types of subnational governments in the UNFCCC process since 1992, especially when the negotiations were adopted, and 95 when the COP process, Conference of the Parties process, started. We influence the negotiation agenda by our input, submissions, statements. We support the setting the action agenda with the champions and Marrakesh Partnership. We collaborate with presidencies to support their way of leading the COP processes, but we also collaborate with the all friends of multi-level action, which are the national governments who are supportive of our advocacy agendas. And that is a year-round engagement. So it's not just the Conference of Parties at the end of the year, but throughout the year we conduct, and that is an effort in that sense. Our monthly webinars and monthly bulletins are aiming to keep us informed and connected and also influence the process before we go to the Conference of Parties at the end of the year. You are more than welcome to register yourself to our updates, and also we are very happy to, especially to hear inputs and feedbacks from all the LGMA partners in this process. It's around, nowadays, I think we are more than 50. We have to update our list, but there is a significant amount of new partners joining the LGMA constituency. We are in the new era since Dubai, and we describe this in 4 phases. The first phase the first 5 years where we were a constituency, but we were not too much uh, engaged. It was the beginning of the journey, and the first 10 years, the second phase, when until the Kyoto Protocol entry and its implementation, we were relatively out of this process. And starting from Bali, we rolled out our concrete proposal to have engaged recognition, engagement, and empowerment. Our hope was this will be reflected in the Copenhagen, but the UN process failed at that time. So this was a third phase of the process until the Paris Agreement adoption. That was the moment we have really increased our advocacy efforts, numerous initiatives, numerous new partners and processes. But starting with the Paris Agreement, really our engagement exploded with so many efforts. And in Glasgow, we have made sure the recognition has advanced further, that the multi-level was recognized as an urgent need. And through Sharm el-Sheikh and Dubai, finally we have the urge for multi-level action as an action agenda in the UNFCCC decisions, paragraph 161 of the the COP28 UAE consensus, and of course, CHAMP is one of our most important initiatives, which is making national governments commit to collaborate with local governments as appropriate. We are now following the new era with the outcomes, the initiatives, but also the way that Troika is also leading this process. Troika is a new mechanism. These are just a reminder of us why Dubai was a milestone. It was remarkable with ambition, inclusivity, and multi-level efforts. And in all this process, the LGMA community, be it in connecting, in supporting the local climate action summit or the urban and climate ministerial, through our pavilion, through our networking, we supported the whole processes, that they are connected to each other, they are supporting each other, and that they are reflected into the negotiations itself. Um, we try to understand who is who, because it's not easy. It's a complex process. The presidency the year before starts to hand over their support to the upcoming or incoming presidency, starting from the mid-year. That has been the case in the past as well, and this is happening now. The incoming presidency, Azerbaijan, has assigned their delegations early at the beginning of the year. They have announced their champions, and they are staff level as well. We have met, as we mentioned, in person, both the champions, president designate, and the subnational and partnerships negotiators since Copenhagen, Berlin, especially in June, and also as the last LGMA webinar we had further. One important thing that's new in this slide that you may not, I'm not sure whether those who were in the previous webinar would be able to notice it, is the right hand corner, upper corner with the red, because in the advisory board of COP29, we were very happy to have two leaders of LGMA, Maimuna Sharif and Joseph Belmonte. The update is that Maimuna Sharif, former mayor of Seberang a strong LGMA leader, a former executive director of UN Habitat, is now assigned as the mayor of Kuala Lumpur, the first female mayor of Kuala Lumpur. So in this capacity, we will see how she will continue to support the advisory board. We know she was attending the second meeting, virtual meeting in August, and we will do our best to connect to Mayor Belmonte once again as well, so that we can increase our engagement or influence in this process through our family members. Let's say they do not, of course, are they are invited by the presidency, but because they're so connected to LGMA constituency, we're very happy to see their. We have a roadmap throughout the year. We engage with the global processes. We have the UN, UNFCCC negotiations, and the LGMA-led events. Obviously, August in the northern hemisphere is relatively silent. It's relatively time where many people are using their mid-year breaks. So we're expecting that there will not be too much updates this month, but this is also an opportunity for us to refresh our preparations and plans, and that's the purpose of this now discussions. In As part of this complex journey, this year our priority was, of course, the The Champ Initiative, the legacy from COP28. We were very happy that by the time we reached to Bonn, during the Daring Cities and the UNFCCC Bonn conference, we had made a very prominent appearance. We had the website of Champ at the LGMA. We had supported the endorsers roundtable, and the multi-level action was part of the agenda of the champions inside the UNFCCC. So we were able to connect informally in a closed door setting with the endorsers and LGMA partners and with the national governments who are endorsed. We also supported the agenda inside the UNFCCC, an action agenda as well. One thing that evolved since June, or in parallel in June, was an attempt to support the JAM processes with an ownership and leadership from the national local government associations. In the past, they were not too much actively involved, or let's say not in every country. But in the last couple of weeks and months, we have seen, especially the leaders who are active in ICLE and LGMA in this space, it became clear that they were also very active in their national associations. And because CHAMP is a national-driven process, we were really thinking that it's the right moment to bring national and local government associations into this process. So we had, under the leadership of Mayor of Bonn, Katja Dörner, we started to call out resolutions from the national local government associations that that focuses on three elements. First, commend their national governments in their commitment for an initiative like CHAMP. Then ask to or express their readiness to engage in this dialogue at home, which means that a commitment is to convene multi-level collaboration, and the local engineering governments are ready to take that, and they're ready to meet and talk, and that they can bring the results to COP29, hopefully with refreshed NDCs by February or by the latest in Belém in 2025. And the third element, that local governments should also step up their initiatives, and that was this is of course part of our climate work. I mean, local governments have been, and subnational governments, other subnational governments have been conducting their annual discussions, but we are trying to elevate it to a new phase so that they can adjust to this new reality that there is a commitment for national governments to include them in their new NDCs. Therefore, we have used the experience from the stock takes last year, and that we are discussing it to evolve it into town hall COPs, in a sense that it is connected to LGMA process, it is connected to this CHAMP, and hopefully the results will be visible at the NDCs, national climate plans, but through LGMA, the contribution of local governments to the global process can also be visible, so that these will be the new way of engagement throughout the year and hopefully annually repeated. And that is something that we can individually, regardless of the decision of their national government associations, all local governments can take such a practice. And then if this could be systematically included in the process, it could really empower us and enrich our contributions to the national and global processes. One thing, the point that we could here see what has happened since our last July meeting is that first of all, we are running the Daring Cities virtual forum since the beginning of or end of July. Every week we have another session on climate emergency, and the first one was the discussion of CHAMP and town hall COPs, and this discussion was together with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Mayor of Bonn, the colleagues from Bristol, Turku, and Rosario, and a diverse group of colleagues. And other thematic sessions are also rolling out throughout the weeks. And there's an important update that the IPCC has released. This is particular reference to us because it will be the first special report of the seventh assessment cycle, the special report on climate change in cities, which is a legacy since 2016 decision of IPCC. As of today now, the meeting of Sofia has concluded with its decision that the scope of this report is now finalized, and now parties or members of the IPCC and their accredited observers are eligible or invited to nominate their or communicate their nominations for authors. The authors have different roles and responsibilities. There are three different type of authors, and they are each have different mandates, or in parallel responsibilities. It's an intense work. It's not just one-off event. It's a 2 years process. It really needs dedication. And the nomination will be completed by 20th of September. And this is now a process that in the next 1 month that we should really organize ourselves so that our practitioners or leaders could be engaged. Those who have the scientific and technical background could be nominated by both their national governments, but also the LGMA partners who are accredited. It's mainly CFORT and ICLA at the moment. I don't know whether there are any others new who have accredited themselves. And the final selection will be by the IPCC Bureau. So this means that we have to coordinate ourselves and ensure the right nominations. I'm happy that my colleague Leah will also be joining us in the next couple of minutes, who has been part of the scoping meeting with other colleagues from the LGMA. So maybe she can also refer to that. But other colleagues who are in this Riga, Sofia process, we are more than welcome. And I'm aware there will be further announcements coming up soon. Um, another important thing that came up recently is that the COP29 presidency announced the Baku Climate Action Week, the inaugural Baku Climate Action Week. Those who are familiar, you can remember New York City Climate Week was the kickoff of such engagements that when there's a UN meetings, when national governments are convening, the green zones or the citywide engagements could be a platform for convening such public awareness and networking events. New York City Climate Week is expanded, for example, to other cities. London has been very active in the past 2 years. We have seen like the case of Belém in Brazil during the Belém Latin America Forum in April, or we have seen Sao Paulo Urban Summit, so that year-round engagements could be focused in 1 week that could elevate the civil society engagement stakeholder, whole of government approach. The good news is that our colleagues from London Climate Action Week, it's London Climate Action Week is an initiative of London Assembly and the Mayor's Office of London. So it's a combination of stakeholders, communities, and administrations. So the colleagues who are leading this process, Malini Mehra, our dear friend, she has been very active both as a member of LGMA, but also as leading the parliamentary constituency of the UNFCCC. She has been actively discussing with Nigar and the COP29 high-level champion and incoming presidents. So last week they announced that the first Baku climate action will be held in September, end of September, beginning of October. We are very excited that this could give a nice legacy and it could expand even beyond Baku, hopefully on other cities in Azerbaijan, but also other cities in the region. We all say that when a city or a country is hosting a COP, it is really an opportunity to change the discussion, change the dynamics, and leave long-lasting efforts or impacts for ambitious climate action. And we hope this will be one of those, the Baku Climate Action Week. And we are waiting for additional announcements. And I'm very happy that Globe, CEO of Globe, constituency focal point, Malini Mehra will be joining us in the afternoon so that she can report back more details on that. So with this overview of what has been our overview and basic approach, I would like to give the floor. I think I have mixed with the agendas. So still, let's stick with presidency updates by Leah, and then we'll focus on the COP29 LGMA joint messages. And Leah, thanks for joining us. We have been working with you for so many months and years. Last month, we were together with Elmar Mamadov and Shahriar Hajar. Today, they are not able to join us. We know they are very busy. You and Habitat, and as part of the whole collaboration of the COP29 president with UN system, has been actively involved in shaping the preparations on behalf of the COP29 or in collaboration with COP29 presidency, including the thematic days, 20th of November, including urbanization, but also the initiative, MAP initiative. And in between, probably there's some updates. Leah, feel free to share with us what is the latest from your side or from COP29 president's side.
Sure. Thanks so much, Yunus, and thanks for having me here. Warm welcome and greetings from Nairobi. I hope you can hear me okay. The internet has been giving us a bit of issues today again, but great, wonderful. But that's my usual internet warning, just in case. Maybe just let me start firstly on the ministerial meeting and then go into the declaration. So it's been confirmed. We have the ministerial meeting is taking place on the 20th of November as part of Urbanization Transport Tourism Day. Maybe just to highlight how important the city's agenda is for the COP29 presidency. They've been allocated 20 slots to host thematic events throughout the 2 weeks. Cities will be given 5 of them. So that's a large number just to highlight how important that topic is for the COP29 presidency. So 20th of November, ministerial meeting. If you've been part of last month's LGMA webinar, we've already briefly talked about it. It's, so to say, a ministerial meeting that brings together also some of the thinking of the Local Climate Action Summit of COP28. So to say, a much more multi-level climate action ministerial meeting. What does that mean? 5 mini ministerial meetings, a high-level opening and multi-level climate action, where we're trying to mobilize including the SG and COP president and so on. So really high-level meeting, also an opportunity to have some, so to say, taking stock on where we stand on champ endorsements. Then 4, we've called them thematic deep dives, high-level ministerial meetings, one on building and construction, one on transport, one on nature, health, and resilience, and one on finance. Each of these will also be co-organized in this with the support of other organizations. And importantly, for all of these, we are striving for an equal representation between ministers and mayors in one way or the other. So that's really the goal. So hoping to have really turn this into a real dialogue between different levels of government. So just to highlight also that this is really an important topic, again, for the presidency. There will be, I would ask for this community support in identifying local leaders that should be invited for this a ministerial meeting. I hope, Yunus, you'll be able to sort of say as LGMA to support spreading the word. We have developed an online tracking sheet where we can put down priority speakers for each of these roundtables, and of course would love to work with you to identify who would be the best local leaders to bring to Baku for the 20th of November. All of this, so that's the different thematic things. We are hoping to have a big communication campaign launch on all of this soon, so we can really spread the material. Information can be up on the websites. We can also publicly announce this, because it's most likely that actually the high-level opening and multi-level climate action will again be taking place in one of the big UNFCCC plenaries. That's still to be confirmed, but it looks like we'll have a big room. So really big space to fill, but also means big opportunity for everybody from the community to participate. So that's that on the ministerial meeting. Of course, if you have any questions, please do let me know. Out of the ministerial meeting is the declaration is supposed to come out of this. This is also what you see on the screen. That was a very early draft of this. We've received, I think, 300 comments on the declaration. So very good to see strong engagement. Have since cleaned it up, prepared a second draft. The idea is very much that, especially, let me talk to the 3 points that you see here on the slides, because I know these were also some of the tricky and sticky points. The one, I think lots of these words and establishing of mechanisms has been dropped, but what is still in there is encouraging stronger collaboration on and partnerships between different UN agencies, MDBs, networks, and so on climate finance, as really this also being a climate finance COP, and this also there will be a finance roundtable. So, but more in the word of encouraging that the people, the ministers, the mayors that will sign this declaration are really calling for more collaboration. The second thing is the idea that's now here on Yunus on your slide as the urban ambassador. We've been, I know that there were some concerns. What would that mean vis-a-vis Champ? So we've really been again phrasing this now as encouraging stronger collaborations and the synergies between these different events, between the COPs, between the WWFs, between the World Environment Day, with the option we were still working on the exact fine-tuning of the word, but with the option of the host government of a World Urban Forum, World Environment Day, to appoint somebody who can make the linkages also in-house, so to say, and nationally and globally. But all of this really phrased rather vaguely with more the wording of encouragement coming through as well. And then as a last thing is instead of having a progress reporting, so the last bullet point on your slide, Yunus, is actually encouraging future COP presidencies to take the city's topic up into their thematic days, and calling for this to be, so to say, a permanent feature of the thematic days and of the action agendas. Once there is an updated version, of course, happy to circulate that again. I'll stop here, unless there's any immediate questions. I don't know, Yunus, if you immediately there's a question or anything I might have missed. Otherwise, I'll stop here.
Leah, I hope just to check, are you available to stay until the end, or will you have to leave quickly? Okay. We could come back if there's any burning issues. One thing that comes to my mind, I mean, first of all, congratulations to you and the presidency for this really exciting process, and so good to see so positive improvements. I think the perspective that we are aligned with our thinking, and of course we would always would like to see more stronger outcomes, and I think there's still way forward. One of the things that I would like to address is that this year's event is towards the end of the COP, and that brings the question about how will we engage in the early days. And in fact, it is not an agenda for today, but together, you and I, or we as ICLE and UNEVIDAT, we are also trying to make progress on our traditional Blue Zone presence through the Multi-Level Action Urbanization Pavilion. We did not provide too much written updates into this presentation of this webinar because it's still work in progress. We did not want to make any misguidance before confirming any official commitments or contractual issues. But this will be the advantage that we have seen, that if we can make sure the LGMA, the pavilion, and the 2 weeks long journey that could still communicate the key outcomes as early as possible to the negotiations, especially on finance negotiations and others, then the outcomes can be reflected appropriately into the negotiated outcomes, especially knowing that this year there will not be a local climate action summit during the World Leaders Summit, knowing that in the beginning of the second week of COP, a particular distraction will be occurring during the G20 Urban 20 days that is overlapping, so that we have to make sure that there's a very nice synergy, as well as the outcomes from the previous COPs and the next COP, especially the biodiversity COP Cali, and the way Colombia is leading that process, outcome from that feeding into the UNFCCC. As you can see, nature is even after our engagement, so it's even worse in that sense. So that we have to make sure that the events are let's say culminating, but before we have to work a lot so that these outcomes are also visible into the negotiation text and process. I think that's what we have to jointly discuss with you and friends of multi-level action, the presidency, the champ endorsers, and that will be the the skill that we have to develop, as well as the biggest challenge of the Azerbaijan is the lack of financial resources. I think that is the biggest issue. This will also influence the way the urban and climate minister will be run in terms of participation, diversity. So it's a lot of work to go forward, but I think we're on the right track. So and I'm sure there will be some feedbacks from other partners. I immediately see Danya, who is supporting the high-level champions, and on and seconded from ICLE, and she's been leading the work of the champion for a long while. She's asking the revised concept note, and there's another question from Danya regarding champ. Our countries, our delivery partners, will publish any updates this year on evidence-related. Will there be space at COP29 for such progress reporting? Maybe, Daniel, let's discuss it in the Q&A part of it, because UN Habitat is not the right position to answer this second question on CHAMP. We have probably updates from other colleagues, but we can continue, and let's proceed, because I believe now it's the right moment to discuss our at what the topics we want to bring, our key messages, our joint messages to COP29. Let's remember that we have been working on this in the past, and now we have made some progress. We have started with this three call to action with three headings. We have now reached out to 10 highlights, let's say 10 statements, let's say, which is now summarized here. You all remember, or those who are in the process, we have a drafting committee, and with this drafting committee has received inputs, and now this document is up for contributions from all the LGMA partners. We have seen several inputs, additional inputs. We don't think there are major concerns in any of those texts, but there are rather nuances and to how to make it much more understandable or systematically stronger, content-wise, if it can be stronger even. And the point is, we would like to use this next 10 minutes or so a debate. This will be the moment where participants of this call could share anything if they would like to say in support or any concern, even though if they have not found the chance, or they have found the chance but they would like to raise it now. But I also would like to invite my colleague Ariel, leader of ICLE's communications communications work, also leading the comms working group of the LGMA, because this is what the experts, technical experts, have been contributing, and done. We will handle it to the comms people. Ariel also has provided some inputs in the way these could be redesigned or revised in terms of the way it's presented. Maybe it's better that Ariel describes this. But before Ariel, I'm just looking at the participants in the group of the drafting committee. Anyone who wishes to intervene, feel free to raise your hand so that I can give the floor. If not, we can also continue with Ariel so that she can also provide, and maybe it's even better for the drafting committee members to respond to Ariel. That could also be an option. Ariel, maybe let's continue with you on this line.
Great. Thank you, Eunice. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. So first off, of course, I want to give huge thanks and congratulations to all those who drafted and contributed to these joint messages. I think we've said it before, but I'll say it again, that having such joint messages is so critical. It was such a excellent contribution last year, I think, really drove to so many of the successes that we saw. And I'm hoping that this year will be even more successful. So yeah, first, that's definitely the opening message I'd like to start with. I think in terms of overall feedback, I talked a bit about this when we had our consultation workshop at the ICLE World Congress in Sao Paulo. I think that the the joint messages as they're formulated today are highly useful for a very specific audience, and that is negotiators and those working directly within the UN processes. And that's so great because obviously folks like me who, are not in the weeds of this every day, would have a hard time, I think, writing something like this that is that compelling to that very, very important audience. And so I think from that perspective, this really goes quite far to address that audience. I think where maybe my colleagues, so other comms folks from within the LGMA could come in to help kind of translate this a bit so that because I think that we have other audiences that the LGMA should be paying attention to. We do want to try to get folks who are, not within the, let's say, negotiation space or maybe don't speak UN speak as well, to understand what we're trying to drive towards and be able to receive those messages from us, whether, and that may be our to be honest, our elected representatives as well. So, that would sort of be the first audience that I would be looking towards, making some kind of either translation of this or incorporating language in to the overall joint messaging document that does do a bit more of that work to make it clear to them what we're arguing for. And I think that, the content that is there, as Eunice said, is, has done most of the work. And so more, this is just about either structuring it or including another section that does a bit more of the, that translation or interpretation for the kind of non-UN audience. So that's kind of my main feedback. I think a few of these points could be consolidated into like one overall point, like for instance 3, 4, 5 there that you see on the screen could be one. But I think overall, again, these are great and gives us a ton to work with in terms of our communications colleagues and hopefully your communications colleagues being able to get out a aligned and consistent message throughout the COP season, as it were. So thanks, Eunice.
So thanks, Ariel. This is exactly the type of collaboration we are trying to achieve across teams and across the constituency members. So what we have still said that we will keep this document up for comments until 25th of August. We know August is a difficult time, but we also have to make progress. This means next week probably we will convene the drafting committee, probably another virtual call. And I would suggest, Ariel, also let's have this call with the comms colleagues as well, so that we don't waste time too much, so that it's a joint effort. So the goal is that, if possible, we would like to conclude this by before the 31st of August, so that it could be then released. And how we will make this publicly for endorsement, that's what we will discuss with the comms colleagues and the network partners. And that especially in New York, which will be the next agenda, we will discuss on that agendas as well. That it will be the first endorsers, and then the final endorsement will be on the press release on the first day of COP29 as our practice. And then you will use all the opportunities of COP29 to communicate this earlier. I do not see any hands raised yet from other partners on that front. Eva is here, sorry. I saw Eva. Yeah, Eva, thanks for your inputs, Eva from CMR, especially the connection to Summit of the Future. Indeed, that's what we could discuss. One of the things maybe I could respond here, Eva, I see your feedbacks into the shared file about the proposal to replace the word local and subnational governments with local and regional governments. We know this semantics, this terminology is a huge complexity across the UN. Some processes use the word subnational, some regional, and each of its own merits and backgrounds. In the Paris Agreement, UNFCCC, as well as the Rio conventions like the Biodiversity Convention, the word subnational government is used. In the Paris Agreement decision, It says cities and other subnational authorities. So we're still playing in the limbo. There is definitely a difference in terms of what you mean by a regional government and subnational government. There are some partners who are also not happy with subnational government as well. But I would tend to stick to the wording that we have already used so far in the UNFCCC language. And as you said, maybe starting from Summit of the Future, there will be some more things coming up, which may be much more whole of UN encompassing. So I would prefer that we do not go to backtrack and waste our time for that debate, but rather focus on the other points. And definitely Summit of the Future connection, let's discuss and how to make sure it comes up. I would like to highlight one more. You may have seen I highlighted the first paragraph. Uh, of course, when reading such documents, the first couple of paragraphs are one of the most important things. One of the things we would like to highlight here is that in the original version, the original drafts, we emphasize multi-level acceleration. Maybe we should emphasize a bit more to delivery of commitments, especially ambitious commitments like divestment, fossil fuel phase out, or renewable energy targets. But more importantly, in this first or the next coming paragraph, or in this first box or group of sentences, we have to emphasize how we are approaching CHAMP, especially how the LGMA, especially through this national associations and town hall clubs, are connecting CHAMP to this our own work. This connects to the question of Danya. We know CHAMP has its own mechanics. It's also work in progress. And this is at least what we can provide as our bottom-up inputs. And we believe it will be good to mention this in this statement so that it is enshrined as appropriate. Maybe on the maybe we continue in our next couple of minutes because we also have Ingrid to provide updates on the biodiversity. I would like to briefly go through this slide. There are some updates here. This is the 100 days to COP29 or LGMA's 100 days because everybody has their own tracks and processes. As we said, density is going on. Regional NDC forums, we did our best to engage ourselves. The organizers, UNEP, UNDP, UNFCCC, NDC partnership have different mechanisms of engaging. We heard some partners are reached out directly. We asked for more transparency and more concrete information. Unfortunately, we don't have it so much yet. So it's a kind of a bit autonomous process. Let's hope that the colleagues, LGMA partners, are invited directly into this process. We will do our best. The first one is already done for Asia Pacific. The others are coming up. We discussed about AR7, special report nominations process, UNFCCC workshops, negotiation sessions are advancing. I must confess, both me as LGMA focal point, but also collectively, we as the LGMA, we are a bit delayed and lagging behind this. We have not made full nominations because we're talking about around 20 or 25 meetings. One of the most important one, the one in Sharm el Sheikh in the beginning of October, especially the mitigation work program, cities and urban environment session. We are still invited to nominate LGMA representatives. So let's take this seriously so that we are strong there. Loss and damage fund, we are having some difficulties because the current draft is not incorporating LGMA as appropriately, and there are others on board. So we will focus on that. Now that this joint message discussion is over, I think we can spend some more time to this engagement processes. We have Innovate for Cities in Montreal, and then it will be go to World UN high-level agenda in New York. It is mainly from 19th to 25th or 26th of September, a long 6, 7, 8 days. Obviously, not every leader can stay so long in New York, so we have to see how we can appropriately synchronize ourselves. It will start with the World Assembly, the Summit of the Future, as an event to contribute to the Summit of the Future. The CHAMP endorsers high-level political dialogue on the 24th afternoon, and that connects to Danya, your question. I assume both COP29 presidency, who is leading this process, and the GCOM, who is leading the engagement in some countries with some networks are providing some updates soon. As we said, we are doing our best to reach out to the national governments through our LGMA and national association process, and we would continue to play a proactive role to support our dialogue, especially with the Friends of Multi-Level Action as LGMA between presidency, the GCOM, and LGMA. I think we have to have a nice triangular work in this process, but it is open for discussions. We have European colleagues convening their Sustainable Citizen Towns. This is important because European Commission is about to set up its new commissioners and priorities. It's an opportunity to influence this. Pre-COP, I have to write that it will be in Baku. We don't know the modalities, but we will expect to have 1 or 2 seats available. We have to, of course, insert Baku Climate Action Week here. Kali, by their scope, we'll hear from Ingrid. G20 is an important agenda. Environment and finance ministers are meeting, and this is important because of this, how to elevate from 100 billion to $1 trillion, which is a complete new thinking of climate finance. Town hall COPs, let's hope we can get some examples in October. G7 Urban Ministerial, we are receiving some ups and downs. Unfortunately, it's not extremely ambitious because almost all G7 countries are going for their domestic issues, be it France redesigning their national government, UK a new government in charge, US elections, Japan elections, EU the new commission. So G7 this year is terribly focused on their domestic agendas, unfortunately. But we are still, through Urban 7 networks, we're trying to influence this process together with ICLE and Global Fund. We're supporting ANSI, this year's presidency. WOOF 12 in Cairo. It's not a negotiation session, but it's an opportunity for raising awareness and create publicity. We will start with Climate COP29 with our press release and hopefully the pavilion. We invite all the partners who wish to reserve a slot to reach to our pavilion coordination. G20 Social Summit includes Urban 20 Mayor Summit, and then on the 20th of November, everybody will be back to Baku. How will this be possible? Obviously, any mayor, it's almost impossible for them to travel to Rio, and in 2 days' time go to Baku. So we have to be realistic, but we also said there will be others, mayors beyond Urban 20, but we're also hoping that from Urban 20, there will be 1 or 2 representatives to convey what has happened in Urban 20 to COP29 so that we can make the bridge as appropriate. And that's where the LGMA coordination is appropriate and desertification COP in Riyadh. I now would like to give the floor to Ingrid for a brief update on the Biodiversity Summit. This is a presentation or slide from last webinar. I know Ingrid, you may have new ones. Sorry for the delay, but if you can frame it in 5 minutes, Ingrid, that will be really appreciated.
I will do. Thank you so much, Yunus. So just very quickly, those are the important dates. 25 October is a meeting just for mayors and governors. It's a closed meeting where they can meet with parties and the CBD Secretariat. The main event, obviously, the 26th, which is our summit, and it will include a series of high-level dialogues on topics such as the whole of government or multi-level governance solutions, so showcasing implementation progress to date at these levels. Then there's a session on bridging the biodiversity finance gap and partnering between subnational governments and the private sector, finance institutions, etc. And the third dialogue will be looking at the topic of living in harmony with nature, making peace with nature, and
Ingrid,
Ingrid,
you muted somehow. Yes. Okay.
sorry, at what stage did it mute again?
No,
just
just like
last
5
second.
seconds ago.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, sorry. The dialogues, as I was saying, the idea is there that we will have on the stage, we will have mayors, we will have governors, heads of institutions, heads of the MDBs, etc., to debate and talk about these really important topics. On the 27th, there are again some closed events. These are associated events. The CBD has part of its multi-level governance structure, has 2 advisory committees. one for cities and one for subnational governments. They're going to be meeting. And then there's a whole range of other opportunities. We have submitted applications for side events, which we're waiting to hear back from. There will be what they call a multi-stakeholder action zone, where we will have a hub. We're waiting to hear final details of that. It's going to be at a relatively small scale because the venue capacity is limited, and also funding is an issue. But we are encouraging people, please, there is the link, and I will put it in the chat group after this, to please also register. The cutoff date for registration for the COP and for the summit is on the 15th of next month. And because of the capacity limitations, they're being quite serious this time around about the cutoff date. I saw there was a comment about virtual attendance. Virtual attendance is not possible. It is an in-person event and it's being held in the Blue Zone. However, we have been told that the event will be streamed. So you will be able to watch it through the streaming link. And as soon as we have that, we'll share that link also with everybody on the LGMA group. I think this is your last slide, but I just wanted to mention that there is a webinar taking place next week on the 28th at 5 o'clock, which we call Countdown to Kali, where we have a series of very high-level speakers, a senior representative from the Secretariat of the Convention, Mayor Verdun from the Verdun Bureau in Montreal, and also the Mayor of Kali, and some other speakers, really just to talk us through the preparations and what we can expect from the COP. So we encourage everybody to join that as well, because that will be looking at it more from a policy perspective. And I think my 5 minutes are up, Eunice. Thanks.
Thank you, Ingrid, and congratulations. Indeed, it is a difficult challenge, but I think having such a strong alignment of all the agendas and partners is really exciting. And we hope, because you remember, the Colombian government is very active in the climate negotiation as well. Mayor, Environment Minister Susana Mohammed, former Bogota Environment Secretary, she has been a very, very vocal advocate of strong ambitions, fossil fuel phase out, and multi-level action. So we hope this Kali outcome will also provide positive feeds into the climate negotiations. And we already know the Urban Nature Program that was announced in Dubai is now also making progress, and it will be announced in the summit or at the summit with the high-level champions. We hope Razan Mubarak will be able to join in her calendar in Kali to our summit, and then we will bring these results to the Baku. So and especially strengthening the climate emergency response with nature and climate. I think that's an agenda that speaks to the heart of all of us. We have 5 minutes left. I'd like to check if any colleagues want to intervene. It could be question, clarification, or input or updates. And I see an update from there's Buwalia Funga. Is this an AI? Kata, can you help me?
In the chat.
Yeah, I still don't know how to treat and live with these new colleagues.
Yeah, the first few are AI.
Yeah, let's.
Susan
Okay.
Nolden asked if virtual participation is possible also in the outcome of cities.
Okay. By the way, first of all, Dania is collecting us that Buvalia is the mayor of Lusaka. That's excellent. Sorry for apologies, Buvalia. I sometimes I'm really confused with those people. There's participants they treat themselves as an individual, and then I couldn't manage it. So, can you repeat, Kata? You mentioned something.
Yes, Dana Nolden asked if virtual participation is possible also in the outcome of cities.
Okay, a question to Ingrid, correct?
I think so.
Yeah, so the virtual participation at the summit is not possible, unfortunately, but it will be live streamed.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Agat from GCOM is also announcing the webinar on 4th of September, which is an important opportunity to deep dive into what progress, especially Dania colleagues and leaders are all welcome to join this webinar, which will be on the 4th of September at 4 p.m. And Agat shared the links, and Ingrid also shared the links of the biodiversity webinar on the 28th, as far as I remember. Correct? Good. So the two upcoming webinars are 28th of August, Biodiversity Kali, and the 4th of September is the Champ Explains webinars. In between, you're more than welcome to join Daring Cities Virtual Forum. Maybe these are the main headlines. And from our communication side, I assume you have heard from Matteo, inputs for the LGMA August Bulletin is also receiving your inputs. This is expected to be released by the end of August, to stick that it is still an August bulletin. So we're aiming to release it by the 31st. What could be expected that we can put the recording of the 28th of August webinar of Kali as a news bit in our bulletin, and the 4th of September could be registration, could be included in our LGMA bulletin as well. And we will continue, as I said, the discussions in the afternoon. We will hear from Malini on the Baku experience, and we will also start to gather with the drafting committee for the position paper with the comms colleagues, so that we conclude our joint messages as concise, strong, and as communicable as possible. With this in mind, we still have 3 minutes. Anyone who wants to intervene can raise your hand and address. But if not, we can always save 3 minutes of our lives and have our humanitarian breaks before our next calls. I feel this is the case. I don't see additional chats or points or any hands raised. Is that correct? Yes, Qatar, no one has hand raised. So thanks a
No,
lot.
I don't think so.
This,
There's one more question
yeah.
in the Q&A. I don't really understand the question. The main local moment will be on 20th.
Okay. The main local moment at COP29 is designed to be, yes, 20th of November, which is the urbanization day. And 2 weeks of the pavilion will also be the base for us to engage throughout the 2 weeks. Leah, is there anything else you would like to add before conclusions, or any comments on the discussions?
Maybe just as a last thing, I mean, I know everybody's concerned about how to fund COP29 travel. We're trying to get sponsorship, at least for some local leaders to come to COP29. But not confirmed yet.
Yeah, let's stay tuned. We all expect in New York there will also be additional events by the COP29 presidency. These are all to be confirmed. So that will be the moment where we'll very likely refresh ourselves. Yes, let's stay in touch and stay tuned for further updates. And wish you all the best and have a nice day and evening. Let's connect in the next webinar next month. Bye bye.